and then we can kind of questions at the end too. Hey there, everybody. Good afternoon. It's our Thursday, 2:00. We have this live training, and then we have our finale, our closing call, announcement of prizes, scholarships, all of that, and then the bonus masterclass. So I'll tell you more about that at the end. I'm so excited to introduce you to my friend, Dr. Angelyn Franks. And I'm going to read you her bio before I put the floor over to her to tell her a little bit about herself. Dr. Angelyn is a formerly burnt out speech language pathologist who knows firsthand what it feels like to love your work and still feel completely drained by it. After 6 jobs in 7 years, she realized that burnout wasn't just about stress or workload. It was about misalignment, disconnection, and trying to fit into a system that really wasn't built for sustainability. Today, she helps speech language pathologists, special educators, other educators, and healthcare professionals break free from burnout, reconnect with their core values, and create careers and lives that feel sustainable and fulfilling. How does that sound, everybody? Let me know in the comments. Through coaching, her membership community, and speaking engagements, she provides practical tools and clear strategies that help busy professionals move from survival mode, which beginning of the school year, everyone's heading that way, to a place of clarity, confidence, and alignment. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So welcome, Angelyn, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited just to chat about all things burnout. It's my favorite thing to talk about.
Awesome. Awesome. And is there anything I missed that you want to add about yourself?
No, I think the other piece for me was, and you were talking about this on one of your lives this morning, is this really showed up more for me in the pandemic because of all of the stress that outside of work too. And so I heard you say something this morning on your live, like, you know, that we all started to feel a lot of changes at that time. And I think for a lot of people, we're still kind of recovering from that. And I think it's why these conversations are even more important now than they ever have been. So
yeah, that's a good point, because I feel like after the pandemic, the 3 years after that I was still in the classroom was really hard, like the hardest of my career. And everyone else was echoing the same thing. And I'm still hearing that from teachers. Like things shifted during the pandemic and they haven't returned to like normal or pre-pandemic. You guys in the comments, let us know. Does it still feel like that to you? Do you feel like since the pandemic, things have been harder? Like more behaviors, more just more intensity and more disruption kind of. Let us know in the comments if you have been feeling that too. And today, Dr. Angelyn, I wanted to talk to her because when I heard her talk about this topic, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, the summit is going to fill everyone with tons of information. You're going to be a little overwhelmed, but also excited. And I thought if there's one way we could bring this to everybody so that you can go back to taking care of yourself. We always hear that, put on your oxygen mask first before you can help others. But we say it, and often unless we have like a clear plan, we don't continue to follow through. It's like a really good idea, but you know what those first 6 weeks, 8 weeks of school is like. It's crazy. And you know that's coming along with the excitement. So let's make a plan. Let's make a plan to help you out and commit to that. So You, Angelyn, have been open about your own burnout story. Can you tell us a little bit about what it looked like and what made you realize things had to change for you?
Sure. So for me, and I think people have different, or, burnout manifests in very different ways. But for me, it looked like just hopping from one job to the next, like I was looking for the right job. And I never really found it because I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't have a plan to that point. And so I looked up at some point when I was getting my doctorate degree, and I was reading something and I was like, I've had 6 jobs in 7 years. And that's a lot. And I always say I would have told you I wasn't like a job hopper, but as soon as I started to feel that burnout, I started to panic. I started to think like, I got to get out of here. I got to find something different. And then I would make a choice to go to the next job, only looking for maybe the one thing that I thought was the problem. So whether it was higher pay or a smaller caseload, better hours, different things. Like I was looking for one thing and I didn't know what I was looking for. And so that's really what it looked like for me. My husband and I adopted our daughter in 2020. And she was our niece before that. And so it was a family adoption. It was kind of a surprise, best thing that ever happened to any of us, but also a huge life change. And really, sorry, I get like emotional. She was the reason.
I'm emotional with you. Say that again.
I know. I saw someone speak once and they were like, I always just tell people like, I'm going to cry just so you know, like I'm a crier. So, yeah. So I just knew I had to change, like something had to change. Okay. Your turn to talk for a second.
Okay. I got it. I feel like, big changes in our life can also bring out some of that burnout in a way.
Yeah.
Big changes or like big events. So I know looking back to 2018, my husband, we weren't married at the time. We got married 3 years ago, but we have been together for 10 years. And in 2018, at age 42, he ended up having to have like 13 stents put in his heart or his arteries. And it was due to, they found out later, a genetic that makes him genetic, what do you call it? Defect. It's not the right word, but mutation that makes his body produce way too much cholesterol. And it was very scary. And at that same time, I was running a 5K with Lori here and my uncle for Be the Match for bone marrow transplants. And my dad had leukemia. So Uncle Jay donated and helped give my dad more years on his life. But we were running a 5K and he collapsed and died at mile 1. So there was trauma, even if it's big trauma or small trauma, and 8 months later, my dad died. And in those 8 months, my husband had 12, 13 stents put in his heart. So I'm saying this to share that when there are big changes or transitions in your life, it affects everything. And, sometimes you're at the point where you can't even think of self-care. So it's just a hard thing. It's not just self-care regarding work. Your life events affect work. Work sometimes affects your life and your family. And it's just really, really hard.
Yes. And for me, I looked around and I just thought something has to change. And I didn't know what to do, right? I knew that I loved what I did. I loved working with the students I was working with, I didn't want to leave the field, but I realized that I couldn't keep doing what I was doing. And so that's where I almost left my doctorate program at that time because I was like, I can't do that and like be a mom, and like I didn't know what to do. And so I started, when you're in or I was in a doctor program, and I got a little bit excited that I finally understood research when I was reading it, because I pretended in grad school in case anyone else didn't do that. Like I didn't know what I was reading. And I started reading about the science of stress and stress appraisal and burnout. And I was like, oh, okay. So even the stress that we have for good things, the stress for this, before going on for this interview with you, like that stress, even though it's good stress, that adds up in our bodies. The stress, I keep thinking when I have been listening to all these amazing presentations, like I want people to hear, like, even if we keep ourselves in a place of stress where we're like, we have to make all of these big changes all at one time, like that's still stress. And so, all of that adds up. And so I just started reading about it and I thought, oh, okay, this would be really cool. So my research study for my SLPD program was I used an app, a mindfulness app. And at the time it was called 10% Happier. I think now it's called the Happier app. And SLPs used it. I had SLPs who were working in the field use it. And then I asked them about their perceived stress levels over a 2-week period. And everybody's stress reduced at a statistically significant rate, which means that the mindfulness app helped. And so, but for me, that was kind of like the start of, okay, there are things that we can do that don't require the system to change, like that give us the energy to actually change the system. And that is what we need.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm reading the comments as you're talking, and there's so many people kind of sharing their stories. Like someone said their, I think dad died of ALS right before their twins were born. And I think the big thing about working in education is you feel so guilty if you have to take a day off, let alone if you have to take several days off, like I did during that terrible time. I was, grieving my uncle and the stress or the trauma of what I saw, having him fall next to me. But then at the same time, I literally was teaching during the day. And then I would go to one hospital to visit my dad and another hospital to visit my husband, and then go home. And my stepkids were young at the time. So I would try to, get them dinner, get their lunches made for the next day. And like how with that kind of stuff going on, and then you feel guilty for being gone from school, but like if you left, you would be replaced. It's a job, but it's a job we're so passionate about, and we don't want to. It's just that guilt piece that I think, I don't know if you've seen that with people that you've coached or in your membership, but I feel like the guilt of educators taking a day off or even more than a day off, even when they're experiencing extreme circumstances at home, like I was, that guilt factor has to be addressed, because other professions, I don't see that happening. Like my husband can take it off and it's not going to throw his team into chaos. And so I don't know, let me know in the comments, everybody, if you have to take a day off or if you're experiencing something where you need more than one day off, do you feel incredible guilt that you're letting
I think the guilt is so heavy. And I also think, so there are a few things to say to that too, because I think about what you just said, as far as like, if your husband were to take off, things wouldn't fall apart. And I think we hold that weight of like not asking for help sometimes when we're in the classroom, when we're working. I mean, I know I was guilty of this, kind of being at a place where it was just easier for me to do as many things as I could, regardless of time, capacity, or other things going on. And so I think that's where, and we talk about this in my membership, and I talk about this with a lot of people, is like microdosing, like asking for help, or microdosing, like just, what is the word I'm looking for? Like,
It
I don't
sounds
know.
like, in a way, like layman's words, baby steps, and it made me think
Yes.
of, like, what was it, 2 days ago? Or no, it was yesterday. I who have been obviously working in insane hours with this summit, but I texted my husband and I said, "Hey, could you make something for dinner tonight and
And
tomorrow
how
night
hard
too?"
was that, right?
It was
Like,
hard
you
to
probably had
do.
to,
I
like,
mean, it was hard for me because I didn't
yes,
want to guilt him, but I'm also sitting here going, I have this huge event and you haven't made dinner once, and the teenage boys are probably like, "Come on, I want Tara to get back to like a normal routine because we have no food."
right.
And he just
Well,
he didn't pick up on it on his own. So, and then he did, and it was great. But
yeah, and I'm sure
microdosing,
he
asking
didn't,
for
like,
help
I'm
and doing
sure that,
something like that.
yeah, and I think when we either ask for help, or, and I think that's a great example, right? Because you, but I've been there too, where I'm like, okay, maybe I could just, I don't really want to ask my husband to stop on the way home and grab some milk. Like, that's an example, because like we have no milk. Actually, I don't even drink milk, so it annoys me that I like have that in my mental load.
Yeah.
But like, why, if he's on his way home and he's going to pass 4 places where he could pick up milk, it took a long time and a lot of practice for me to separate just a little bit, separate that, even the guilt of asking for that. And I think
Yeah.
that's where practicing it in times when there's very little, there are low stakes. Because the worst case scenario in that situation would be maybe your husband saying like, "Oh no, I'm actually busy, but I'll just grab McDonald's on the way home." And like, that
Mhm.
would be okay too.
Totally. Anything.
Right. As long as
I
like
actually
that.
did say,
Yeah.
"Can you make dinner or grab something?" Just because,
Yeah.
to give him a couple options. Give choices. We like to give choices, right?
Exactly. And so I think, if you're thinking about that in a workplace setting, I mean, starting to maybe, I mean, I know that when I was working in a classroom, and I was the main speech pathologist in an autism classroom. So I feel like I have that when you talk about it, Tara. I'm like, I wasn't by any means like in the lead teacher role, but like it was my classroom, and that
Yeah.
me and one other therapist. And it's so easy to think like, oh, well, I'm just going to do this because it's easier. But if you think about it, if we're really supporting paraprofessionals to be as wonderful as they are, because they are, and we're supporting our students to be able to self-advocate more, just all of the things. If you're doing everything, and I use everything kind of, I know somebody's not really doing everything, but if you can delegate, that's the word I've been looking for. If you can delegate,
Yes.
you can just ask for help or ask for support, or say, or maybe focus more on some of the things that we talked about this week, like maybe teaching like a framework in how you're going to approach a problem or a problem solving, as opposed to just doing it or solving it one time. That's going to help for a few reasons. But then in those moments when you have to call out, you also will have that conscious choice of, or conscious feeling of, okay, I have, like, this is what the moment I've been training for, right? Like, this is what we've been training for. You don't have to hold all the things.
Yeah.
And I think I just want to be super clear that that's hard. That's not easy, because it's sometimes just easier to do things. And I run into this with my daughter all the time. I'm like, ugh, it would just be easier to empty the dishwasher instead of hearing her
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
like gripe about emptying the dishwasher. But if I do that, then next time I'm going to start to feel resentful that I have to empty the dishwasher and that she hasn't done it. And that's not her fault that I didn't ask her to do it, because I just had a little bit of, I didn't want to be I didn't want to deal with the discomfort of asking her. So
yeah. And sometimes it's harder on the front end. I have a
yes.
comment that came up that I just thought was really a great point with, especially since the pandemic, because SLP subs extremely rare, but subs in general, for paraprofessionals and, all of this affects it
Yeah.
affects burnout and self-care because, when you don't have a sub in there, you're going to go home tired. Or for SLPs, you probably have experienced this. They're like, these IEP minutes have to be done. So sometimes they say, okay, well, you'll have to find another time to see all these kids extra so that
Yep.
all the minutes get
More
approved. And it
time.
falls. So like if an SLP is gone, sometimes you have to do more work because you were gone. And that's
Yes,
hard.
I'm laughing. There's a comment that says SLP subs. What is that? Never.
Right? And Carrie's
Yeah.
probably saying it too. I don't know.
Well, yeah. And you don't have, like, you almost cause more work, or you do think about that there'll be more work on the other side of, if you call out. And I think that I think that is a reality. And one of the things that I think this came more from therapy than the research and my, the things that I've come to, but something that I've tried to get really a lot better at, that I wasn't really good at when I was in burnout, was like almost having neutral reactions to reality. Like I almost had this this view of the world where I would be like, well, that's not how I want it to be. Like, and so, but if that's reality, and it's okay to admit that the reality is that there are not enough hours in the day for SLPs, for teachers, for paraprofessionals, for anybody. And I think that is where self-compassion can come in, where we don't judge ourselves, where we speak to ourselves or have those thoughts in our brain be more kind than they are judgmental. And I was so judgy in my own brain to myself for years. And I think I don't know if you experienced this, Tara, but I think that came a lot. It probably started before grad school, but I think in graduate school, I felt this pressure to be kind of, I would say that's where perfectionism comes in for a lot of people. Like you want to be perfect and know everything, but it's just, that's hard to do. And it's not really reality. But I feel like that's the thing that we think we're preparing for in graduate school, is like to know it all, or to know all the things we're going to know.
Absolutely.
And so that that reality is important.
Yeah. And I hope everyone listening, like, that this is just taking a little weight off of you to discuss it and feel like you're not alone, because unless you are working in education like us or special education, you don't, like, other people don't experience the same kind of like pull, this guilt, like I'm not feeling good, or I need a mental health day, or I need a personal day, but I can't. It's this like dichotomy that not many other professions have to feel. Maybe nurses,
Yeah, I was going to say, I think like medical, like doctors, nurses, helpers.
Yeah.
I think people who help other people, who go into these fields because we love helping. Like, I think that is a really common thing, and a really common feeling. And I hope that, like you said, I think a big part of it is just acknowledging it and feeling that. And then the other thing that is helpful too is knowing that guilt or perfectionism, a lot of that comes from things that are outside of us that maybe are not in our control, or maybe are not, maybe aren't necessarily happening. I think if we think about, even if you haven't delegated, you haven't trained for that moment. I think a lot of times if we have to be out, other people, they're not going to see our kids on our caseload. But I think if you're in a classroom, I think it won't be the same, but your students will be okay. Your paraprofessionals will be there. If you're a paraprofessional and you're like the one that holds up, I feel like they're like, if you are the one in that room and that the schedule and all the things, and we all know that person, right? Like they've got their hands, their strength and everything. It won't be the same, but it will be okay. And so I think
sometimes you have to tell yourself, it's going to be okay. I need to be gone. Everyone will figure it out and it will be okay. So I like that.
And even if they're upset, even if they're frustrated, if you show up just a little bit more charged the next day, a little bit more energized, whatever, if it was something like that you needed, or you needed to be there for your family, I think even if somebody in the moment is like, oh gosh, Tara called out today, they'll be okay. And it's okay. Similar to asking my daughter to empty the dishwasher. If we can tolerate that a little bit, it's going to help on the other side of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the other things I wanted to ask you is like, you talk about burnout isn't just about stress or heavy workload. So that's what we're talking about now. All of that stress, heavy workload, but it's about misalignment. Can you explain what that means and how we can all try to start to recognize it in ourselves?
Yes. Okay. So, Ashley, do you want to pull up that slide? Yeah, we can pull up that first one. Okay, great. So I'm going to scroll. Okay, so this was like monumental for me because I thought, again, I was kind of reactively looking for the job that solved the one problem that I was having in the moment. So maybe it was pay or a boss I didn't like, or maybe somebody, hypothetically speaking, offered me a promotion for a pay cut, like a supervisory role. That really hurt my feelings. Maybe I was hopping from one place to another. But the Christina Masloch is like the burnout lady. She's just the grandmother of burnout research. She is amazing. She talks about how there are these 6 areas of work and life that lead to burnout. So one of them is workload. Another one is control. And I also think from the perspective of thinking about so many of the things we talked about this week, I think about for our autistic students and for all of our students, when you don't have that control, we know that it increases stress. So I think this is, there are some parallels to these theories that I think are helpful. So rewards is another one. So for me, sometimes that has been compensation. Other times it's just feeling appreciated. Or when that resentment starts to come in of like, I'm doing everything and I feel like maybe other people aren't doing enough. And that was for me so much. I feel like when I was in burnout, I had this like cynicism, like I was doing everything and other people weren't doing enough. When in reality, everybody's doing the best that they can. And I can see that now on the other side. But I remember sitting in IEP meetings thinking like, how is this happening? Like, and really, if somebody's not doing what you think that they should be doing, it's probably because they're experiencing this chronic stress. Community, so the relationships or the connections with our colleagues or families, and then fairness, and then values, which is the one thing that I was missing. And when I looked at those 6 jobs in 7 years, and this is where I like have a journal entry that I usually share when I speak, but I don't have it today. It's like scribbles of every job, which I've blocked out the jobs. And then these areas circled like which ones showed up. And I did not realize until I was actually preparing to speak at ASHA last year that values misalignment showed up in every job. And a lot of times that for me, that looked like working in a place where they were sharing what their values were. The values were on the wall, like painted. And, if you're at a clinic, like they're really cute, they're on a tree, the core values of a company. But when we're not acting in alignment with those values, or maybe administrators are saying that they value things, or the wall says one thing, but then you're like, oh, maybe I don't feel that. Or maybe it's a teacher or family or parent, whatever it is. So for me, that was like the thread that tied through everything. And so then I started thinking, well, what are my values? And when I started thinking about that, I was like, oh, I actually don't know what they are, because I think the things that I think are my values are the things that people have told me that I should value. Like, all I could think about, and I hear this from so many people that I work with, like from so many of the folks that I've coached, is like, really right now in burnout, kind of my one thing that I think is my value is like not making people upset with me. I just don't want anyone to be mad at me. I want to do the best job that I can, but I really don't want them to be mad at me. Or I just want to do the best that I can for my students, which I believe that all of us want to do the best that we can for our students. But I think we lose what's important to us when we have that as the very top thing. And the best part of identifying your core values, like your true values, is that when you're in alignment with them, you are able to show up in the best way for your students, like, because you don't have that misalignment. And so it's so counterintuitive. It's so easy. And I know that people, when I start talking about it, I'm like, I know that people don't believe me, that just naming and getting really, really clear on your values, not what somebody else values or not what you think you should. And our values come from so many places, like from how we were raised, from our workplaces, from, I think we all, and I don't know about education programs, but I know I took some, and I call them shouldy values, like the things that we should have. Like, I took some really shouldy values from grad school into the world.
Now I see why you said we should probably have a visual of that, shouldy values, because it kind of sounds like something else. But
yes. That's well, you guys, I emailed Tara and I was like, am I allowed to say shouldy values? Like, even though it's should.
It's not
because I didn't want to offend anyone. Yes.
But I like it. And can I bring up one thing I thought of as you were talking about these values, and especially the values alignment? I feel that a lot of us, even before we named it like this, but especially after participating in this summit, if you deep down in your heart, one of your values for teaching is more relationship based, more compassionate based. And I also feel values can change as we learn more and know more. So a lot of your values after this summit are like, I've heard so many say, like, how do I get so and so to get on board? Or this person I work with is completely compliance based. Like, that causes stress that can lead to burnout. I know that I had lived out in Colorado for a year, and taught at a school there, or I was SLP working with 2 autism programs at the elementary level, and my values did not align with what was happening in those classrooms, and I witnessed things that I wish no one would have to witness. And they were, there was one staff member that was literally holding a child down in his chair to do his like writing activity, but like physically just holding him down. And when you see stuff like that happen and you have to say something, it's so hard. Like, the amount of that can burn you out fast. I had at that same school a paraprofessional that had been there for a super long time, pushed a child who was autistic and had Down syndrome during art class, I was in there, she pushed her to the ground, and I went and reported it right away to the principal. And then the police came. And then for the next 3 months till the end of the year, everybody except for one paraprofessional in those 2 autism classrooms ignored me. And I mean, literally, I'd walk in the door and they would turn and walk away and not say one word to me. And I don't talk about this much because it really was really, really hard. And after that, I ended up, not because of that, but because my dad was sick, I moved back to Wisconsin, and I'm so glad that I did. But I hope that me speaking up maybe caused some people to look at values, but that's an extreme circumstance of, even if I had unnamed values inside, they were in direct conflict with what was happening there. And I feel like a lot of you that are here at this summit feel that same way, whether it's a big thing like that or just small day-to-day things. You know what I mean?
I definitely, yeah, I think that's a good example too of just, even if it's not something that you've named yet, I think that it's very common. And that's where I think either you have that feeling of like resentment or just exhaustion of like, but for me, one of the things, I think about in a situation, or if people have a situation, in the school year, if they have named some of their values, like the stress too that you probably felt, like going into the principal to report that, like all of the things that you felt and all of the stress in your body and the cortisol and like the actual stress that was happening. When you do have a name for your values, like if you were saying like, my value is, oh, I love that.
Sorry, I didn't know it was going to pop right up. I just
that's okay. Yeah.
I remember after that incident, because I don't know how many of you are like this. I hate confrontation. Yeah. I hate it. It would have to take something like, a child being hurt for me to be like, okay, I am like confrontational. But I remember posting this exact image on my Facebook page after that because, I didn't tell what happened, but I was just like, oh, this, even though your voice shakes, because that's definitely how it felt. Sorry that this popped up.
No, that's okay. So I think too, like, I would say probably a lot of people, and especially after this week, like if we were to think about, I feel like the value or the core value of connection is probably pretty common amongst this group of amazing educators, right? Like I think, or compassion, or just some of those values that we probably all share something similar. And I always say like, I don't want to put a value on somebody, but it's pretty common. And it's a lot of the reasons why we went into this profession. Right. And so walking into the principal's office, like the anchor of, if you had a name for whatever value it was, and I think another one is like justice, like, or, that innate sense of justice that we have. Like if you were like, okay, but my value is authenticity and or integrity, doing the right thing. Like if you had whatever that anchor was, it reduces a little bit of the load of stress on you in those moments. Now, it doesn't change the people outside of you who are acting kind of crappy, right? Like it doesn't change that. But then when they're acting that way, if you can say to yourself, well, I was in alignment, like I made that report in alignment with what I knew is important to me, right? It helps just a little bit in those moments. And that's where I think that buildup of chronic stress over time, like if we can reduce it just a little bit. So this is almost like an anchor for us in those moments, or just in those hard moments of if a student's having a hard day, or if a parent is, complaining about something. If your core value at the end of the day is connection, we'll go with that one. And you think in that moment, how can I problem solve in alignment with my values. Like, and that might be just like slowing down and thinking about how can I connect with this mom right now? She's complaining about things in this classroom, or she's expressing, that she's unhappy, instead of going to a place of like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing enough, or I'm not doing it right. Just how can you stop and pause and make the next right choice with your core value? And I think every single time for me, that feels better. And even thinking about, and it's such a silly example, but asking my daughter to empty the dishwasher, like even that is like, okay, pause. I'm going to connect with her. I'm going to say, hey, whatever it is. And then it's just a little bit easier, instead of being like, oh, I don't even want to ask. It's not worth it. I have to feel guilty that I'm asking her to do something. No, if the goal is connection and I can't connect with her, if I'm resentful and I haven't asked her to do the thing, and she empties the dishwasher every time, you guys. So if she listens to this, she's going to be like, what a terrible example. But, so I just think in those moments, for me, what I have found is that my values help me make those decisions with more confidence. They allow me to set boundaries in a way that feels better. And I even think about, Tatiana says, I try not to think of it as confrontation, but navigating conflicts. Yes. I love that. Yeah. Because really that's what it is. And it's, go ahead.
Sorry. It's hard sometimes online because there's like a little bit of a lag. And, I was just thinking, okay, how is this something you help people do, like figuring out their values? Or
I feel like I've gotten really good at it.
Wow. Okay. Because that sounds really interesting. You have those and you can go back to them when making difficult decisions, or just any decision, I guess, in your life, but in your career too.
Yes. And I pretty much will tell you, like, I think that we pretty much have our set of core values. And there are some people that, you start a business and you come up with the core values for your business. But I think for the most part, we have our values, right? And I think Brene Brown talks about that too. And I don't actually think I'm good at helping people decide their values, because I think we know them innately, right? But I think I've gotten pretty good at helping people peel back those layers of like shouldiness that we have. Recently, somebody was like, my core value is excellence. And I was like, are you sure? Like, and I didn't say that, and this was in a conversation in my membership, and we were like, she was open to the conversation. Because if you tell me that your value is excellence in just conversation, I probably am not going to be like, are you sure? But if you're asking for help, I'm going to say, I think, okay, but there are so many layers there. And it's like her biggest thing, because one of the greatest ways to think of your value, or to identify your core values, is to think about the things that really make you angry or frustrated or resentful. So like, and you don't have to like stay there in it, but usually those are a really good sign of like where your values were violated, or where you have these misalignments showing up. And so for her, she was like, well, when people don't do what they say they're going to do, I get really upset. And so I think my core value is excellence. I was like, well, maybe under that is like integrity, or doing what you say you're going to do, whatever word you want to choose for that. Because I think that's the value. And really it shows up in this way of like wanting everyone to be excellent, wanting to hold yourself to the standard. But when you peel it back, it's really just keeping your word to yourself, like other people keeping their word to you. And that's where it shows up.
I love that example, because as you were describing different values, before you said that one, I was thinking one of my values I just am uncovering with you talking, it is really do what you say you're gonna do, like that follow through. I guess that's
Mhm.
I I really value it in myself and other people. Like if you say you're gonna do it, do it. I mean, obviously sometimes there's exceptions to that, but
Yeah.
do what you say what you're gonna do it, follow through. That's really important to me because otherwise, I feel like let down or okay, now I have to do it because you said you were gonna bring
Mhm.
out the garbage. It could be something that small and you didn't do
Yeah.
it. And then boom, there's resent right there. So, and that can
Yeah.
happen in the classroom too, in the workplace.
Yes. And I think, like for me, okay, so one of my core values is, this is funny because I almost like want to disown this value sometimes, but like it is just innate in me. But I think authenticity is one of my core values. And to me, that's even even if somebody says they can do something and then they say, well, actually, like I have, something comes up like that to me, like if they're authentically showing up to say, well, but I have too much on my plate and I can't do this, like that to me still falls in that same bucket, right? Like, um, because I think at surface level, it might look like, I think integrity is the word, maybe integrity for like saying what
Mhm.
doing what you say and saying whatever it is, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
but then I think under that, sometimes it's more like really it's authenticity, like just saying how it is. Um, Even if that's not necessarily what you want to hear, what somebody wants to hear, I would rather somebody just be authentic and honest, even if it's a hard thing to hear. Um,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think,
you don't want someone, like, not telling you the truth, you know?
yeah,
You'd rather know. The delivery of how they tell you is pretty important, but at least they tell you. So, I was
yeah,
gonna ask you, like, a lot of people here, a lot of the attendees, special educators, genuinely love their work, but feel exhausted all the time. What are
yes.
some common signs of burnout that they might be missing or even normalizing?
Yeah. So I think I mean, the exhaustion is like huge. And that's one of the signs. I think for a lot of people, we see like kind of a smaller window of tolerance, right? Like some days, those days when your fuse is just so short, like that's a really common sign, excuse me, of burnout. And I think that feeling, I think I can scroll to yes, like the reduced sense of accomplishment is a huge one. Like, you lose um, that feeling of, celebrating those small wins with your students, or just even the ability to see those small wins is something that's so common. And it's another thing that I feel like we kind of see out there of like, oh, we have to have these gratitude journals. Okay, someone in the comments said, get your iron checked. And that is so true. I was so anemic when I was burnt out. So I always do tell people if they're exhausted, get your iron checked. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it's, those are the symptoms on paper, but one of the things that I felt pretty often in my burnout was like getting home and and I still feel this, like just being really snappy or being really reactive to like really small things that are not
Mhm.
that, you know, are, and I don't want to say not that big of a deal, but things that when I'm in a better place or when I'm not in that state of chronic stress, that those things don't seem as monumental,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
so though, having just that really short fuse. The other thing is like being like wired but tired at night, so you're exhausted all day, and then you go. Um, it's time, you want to go to sleep. And then you're like, actually, I'm going to like scroll on my phone, or I just like can't sleep and I'm going to stare at the ceiling and think about all the paperwork that I have to get done and all the things. And then you end up more exhausted the next day. And so it really, all of it, the stress and the symptoms of burnout really just kind of snowball over time.
Yeah, they do. And I know that you have created a quiz that helps people find or identify their unique burnout pattern. Can you talk about the different patterns and how
Yeah,
understanding can help us take more effective action?
absolutely. And so some of the patterns that we see are like that perfectionism, right? Like I have to do everything perfectly and do it myself. The other pattern that we see is really just trying to do everything for everyone, like putting a lot of energy into not letting people be mad at you or be upset. The other one is just really having really being in that chronic stress place where your nervous system is just so overwhelmed and anxious. And so with all of those things, I think the great part of the quiz and then the little custom GPT that you can use with it, and all of that is free. So everybody use it. Feel free to share it with your people because it's so important. Oh, my dog. Brody, we're in an interview, sweetheart.
Come on, buddy.
This is the failed therapy dog, by the way.
Who does he think he is?
Right. He's just barking at the Amazon man. Anyways, so yes. So when you can identify those things, you can then make really small decision, like the next small decision to help you. Because I think that's the thing. And we didn't even, I feel like we didn't even really dive into it, but like having your values and then even aligning your self-care with your values, and because most of those areas are probably where you have some shouldy values, right? Like you think you have to do everything, or you kind of, when you're in that stress, you lean towards perfectionism. And I always was like, I'm not a perfectionist, but like, you better believe that I am going to
She's going to mute. I'm going to tell you all. I have the quiz link up, and I think Ashley can put it in the comments again if it's easier to like copy and paste. But definitely go to that now. Don't fill it out now and try to multitask, but pull it up so you have it in your tabs up there. And after we get off here, you can go in and take that. And I'm definitely going to do it. I saw you showed us once, or showed me the back end of that, and like it looks so awesome, and I'm ready to take it.
Yeah. And I think the great thing about the GPT is I trained it to really give you really like tiny baby steps, like you said earlier, sorry, Carrie. Tiny baby steps to what the next, or something that you can do. And it kind of gives you 3 choices. I didn't want it to give you too many, because that can be really helpful. And maybe that's just taking a walk, or there's just it, and it's meant to give you ones that go with the pattern that you showed. And all you have to do is like drop a screenshot of your score in there. And it looks at it through the lens of like how depleted your battery is. Cause that's kind of what I feel like that stress does to us. And those areas that are kind of sneaky, like if you think, for me, I just thought about the caseload, or just little things. But if you think about the fact that your perception of your caseload or your perception of things can make or break or be different, then it can just be so helpful to have that lens to look through. So yes, I hope people take that.
And I feel like talking about things with a group of people that understands. Like this has been really nice today, just hearing other people's stories too, or saying, yeah, me too, that validation. But then talking about values, like that's one of my big takeaways from talking to you
Mhm.
already. Figuring out what your values are, and it might take time to uncover that. You might need Dr. Angelyn's help. She has a membership. We could talk about that in a bit too.
Yeah.
But then identifying your burnout pattern, right? That's
Mhm.
really, really, really valuable. And
Yeah.
then you said that you used like a battery level metaphor to show
Mhm.
how depleted someone might be in different areas of their life. And so, what are some practical steps for someone if they're running on that 25% or less?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest ones and is really, and I say this from a place of self-compassion, sounded so fluffy to me and I didn't like it. And I remember when I first heard about self-compassion, I was like, no, I don't, it's not for me. But so a big part of being more like self-compassionate, and I know, the or slogan for the Preschool Autism Summit talks about compassion, or right? Is it compassion or connection? Well, now I'm,
Compassion, yeah, compassion over
yeah,
compliance.
yes.
Woot woot.
So I think flipping that and like mirroring it onto ourselves is so important. And one of the things that they talk about with self compassion in the research and just in general is um, being more curious than judgmental. Like those two things are opposites. And I think when you are having this overwhelm or you're having this burnout or stress or perfectionism is showing up, or you're like, I need to get back to school and I need to implement 100 things that I learned at the Preschool Autism Summit. Like, I'm so excited about it, but also, how have I been doing this wrong for so long? Like, or, because I don't know. I mean, I even was listening to things this week and I was like, oh my goodness, like, that's a great point. Like, I need to remember that. And then you're like, oh, well, how many things can I remember? Having that curiosity instead of judgment towards yourself is so important to keep you in a place where your stress level is low. And then just taking that next right step, doing the next aligned thing, um, can help so much. I think I also was kind of bleh on mindfulness. Like, I didn't know what it was. I was always told people like, I can't clear my mind. But knowing that mindfulness apps or, just anything where you're being more mindful or even just taking a walk and not thinking about the things that you're dreading about the next day, just thinking about the things in front of you. Like if you go for a walk and you either have someone with you where you're just chatting or go outside and just note things like there's some grass, there's some trees, and or look for certain colors. As silly as those things sound, like keeping yourself in that present moment can help, because the other thing is then when you're in an IEP meeting and there's a parent that's frustrated with you or you are feeling like I'm not doing enough, instead of spiraling to a place where you're um, feeling overwhelmed or stressed, and spiraling to like I'm the worst therapist ever, because that's where I would go sometimes. You keep yourself you are teaching yourself out on that walk that when you're in that IEP meeting, you're staying present, and then you can focus on, okay, how can I connect in this moment? How can I have more compassion? Whatever your core values are. And then that can be so impactful for your stress level and keep you out of that fight or flight.
I love that idea. So we've all been there where we've been at what we anticipate might be a stressful IEP meeting, but reconnecting with those values, like getting away, like you said, touching grass or something like that, and
Mm-hmm.
then coming back and realigning or like reading your values can help you go
Mm-hmm.
in maybe a little more calm and a little more, ready to handle that with
Yeah.
more compassion And I was also thinking about when you were talking about, let me pull it up, like the battery level. I was thinking about things during the school year that we can really identify. We know our battery is way down at the beginning of the school year. At the
Mhm.
same time, we're very excited, and a lot of times we can't wait to get started, but it's taxing. It's a lot of energy that you're putting forth with this new class. And I remember my husband, when we started dating 10 years ago, and especially after we started living together, he was like, I didn't know many teachers before, except, like these good teachers, but he's like, "Do they all come home and cocoon on the couch for, like, an hour at the beginning of the school year till, like, October 1st, and then they have to cocoon for a while, and then they can finally, like, come out and face the rest of the evening?" And I'm like, "E I think a lot do.
Probably.
I think a lot. You have
Yeah.
to get home and, like, decompress, get your sensory system back online." I don't know, does anyone else feel like that? Like, he literally would kind of laugh like, "Okay, she's cocooning for, like, an hour and a half," maybe if it was a really stressful or just active day, and
Yeah.
then you can kinda get back to your life, and that's, like, the 6 weeks. So, thinking your battery is gonna be depleted during those 6 weeks, what can you ask for from people around you to help delegate or get support?
Yeah.
And then another time is parent-teacher conferences, because you have
Yes.
to be teaching all day, and then you have to be on all night, and then sometimes you have a whole day of talking to parents, and it's one to the next, and I dreaded those days, and not because we were meeting with parents, but because it was often a 12-hour plus day of very few breaks and go, 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 and it was just depleting. Like, you could get home and be at
Mhm.
10%. And so,
Yeah.
what can we do in that time to be
Yeah.
proactive and kind of set ourselves up for success those couple of days each fall and spring?
Yeah, I think having whatever systems you have in place, like to make it easy, and even I said it to you right before we came on here today, but like having the mindset of like, how can I let this be easy? How can you let things be easy? If you're a therapist, like how can you simplify your treatment that week? Like maybe you have one book that you are using, or one theme, or one toy, instead of like something that I see a lot of times in people that I coach is like really like reinventing the wheel for every therapy session, or teachers feeling like they have to do so many different things. So I think, how can you let things be easy? And I think that we were conditioned to not let things be easy, but it's not a cop out. It's not cheating. It's um, like, we all know if I gave you, I mean, even just like, Tara, I feel like you could plan a whole year of put in activities, or, in a way that is impactful for like the kids that you're working with. Like, I just feel like so many of the little things that you took from this um, conference, or, maybe are in your membership, like, let it be easy.
Yeah.
In some ways, let your parent teacher conferences be easy. If there's a, a way, nobody's going to give you a trophy for showing up with the most intricate uh, conference show. Like, it's not a talent show. Let it be easy, and don't feel guilty. And even if you do feel guilty, recognize that guilt is not necessarily is not related to you not being good at your job. It's from systems outside of us, right? And so recognizing that guilt isn't from us and letting it be a little bit easy is probably, I think, the biggest thing that we can do as a collective whole, right? And then when somebody else is choosing, I mean, I don't even know that we look at other people and think, oh, they're doing the thing that's easy, but having like compassion and that common humanity when people are also not showing up with maybe excellence, but just good. Like if they're just showing up in the best way, I think it's the same as, picking up dinner on the way home as opposed to making a 4-course meal every night. Like, you're still going to eat. And so letting everything be easy, I think, is a really good solution. And even if you're just recognizing where we've been conditioned to kind of make things more complicated, like, that's probably a first step. Before you're letting things be easy, just recognize those places where maybe you have this self-imposed rule that, like, you have in place, like, it has to be this way, and just ask yourself, like, why does it have to be that way? And if you really can't think of a good answer that's aligned with your values, like, what can you do to align it with your values? So I think that can be really helpful.
Yeah, I think that is really great advice. And it made me think of, like, this week for me, obviously a very intense week for both Lori and I. And I usually like to have things cleaned up at home, and my home office looks like I dumped a dumpster in it. It's it's so
I would
bad.
expect nothing
Normally,
less this week.
oh, I know. But at first I'm like, I've got to find time to clean this up. And now I'm like, that's going to wait till after Friday. And, there's just several things now. I have Amazon boxes. Usually I'm like excited to open whatever I ordered. I'm like, I have no idea what I even ordered. And I'm not even going to open them because the boxes are just sitting there, and it's fine. Right?
Yes, it is fine. And they'll be there when you're ready to open them. And I think, again, like, that stress, if you were in the place of feeling really overwhelmed or stressed and you wanted to open them, then, like, open them, like, even if it makes more of a mess. So I think asking yourself, like, what you need and from moment to moment is another thing that I don't think we were really taught to do. And I think the other thing is, so many of the messages we heard this week were thinking about our students' needs. And I think you could say, well, that needs to come first. But I think if in general you take away from this that, like, everybody, like, we are a better, more resourced professional, and students are better when we're asking what they need and when we're asking what we need. Like, if we can resource everybody, like, and I guess it's not to say that it's our job to resource everybody, but if we're resourcing ourselves just as much as we're doing that for our students, like, it's just going to be so much more sustainable in the long term. And now we're the ones who we want with students, right? Because you have all these great pieces of information to take back and these great messages, and just knowing that you can do one thing at a time. I think the other thing I really wanted to say too is, like, when you go in and back to school, remembering that sometimes, your administrators maybe didn't come to the summit. They didn't hear these messages. It's nothing, like, this is going to be new to them. And so knowing that sometimes it takes a moment or 2 or 3 of connection and compassion from us to bring these messages into a school or a workplace. Most people just don't like change. And so, but if we, like, roll in with this big train of change, then you may get met with some pushback. And so how can you build connection and compassion in the same way that we want to for our students, with the people that we want to hear these messages that were so important this week, if that makes sense?
That makes total sense. So how can people find you if they're like, okay, I want to work with Dr. Angelyn to find my values, realign myself, learn all these things to prevent burnout? Where can they find you?
So I would love everybody can follow me on Instagram at dr.Angelyn Franks. And then I just reopened the doors to my membership. So I would love if anybody does want to do more of this work. We have such a great group of professionals in there. And I think it's such, I feel like I walk away from our live coaching calls with like, I walk away so energized. I think people walk away feeling really energized. And it's just like one of my favorite things that I'm doing right now. And I think, I was doing a lot of one-on-one coaching. I still do that, but I think this is a place where there's also community. There's also people who understand, like you were saying today, just that feeling of it's a little bit different for us. Like it's not the same as other more broad, people. Thanks, Amy. Other professions. And so having people that understand and having that connection piece inside of the membership is so, has been so great. And so I would love to have more people join us in there too, because I think we can do more when we're resourced, right? We can do more when we pour into ourselves, when we fill our cup, when we put our own oxygen mask on. And I think the shifts that you can make when you get really clear on your values are so impactful. And I think it also helps too, for so many of our students, so many of the kids that we're working with, a lot of times what probably is showing up as our compliance-based, or, the old way, is really misaligned with their values. Like the things that kids value are play, whatever that play looks like for them. And so those pieces, I think this mindset shift for ourselves is also one that I think will, I've seen for me, it helps you to just approach the world in this way through this lens. And so it's something that I do think takes a little bit of time to get clear on your values, like that are yours, because we have all of this conditioning that I swear grad school did it in for me.
I know, right?
Oh, did someone just, I don't know that Jenny wants me to be the voice in her head, but I can be a sounding board.
Yeah. Tatiana said, this is the best session.
Good.
Thank you. Yeah, I saw that one too. Could you be the voice in my head? I think the great thing about a membership of any kind is just that ongoing support, because it's kind of like when they say at the beginning of every year, okay, you are more likely to stick with your exercise routine if you are going and meeting other people, right? So having someone to meet on a monthly basis to say, this year, I am putting self-care first. And that's, the great part about a membership. So,
right. And celebrating those wins.
Followed you on Insta. Okay.
Oh, good. Yay. Yes. And even if the membership isn't something that people want to do right now, I think over time, like it will, I will plan to reopen it. And then the other thing is, my very favorite thing I do is every November, or the past 2 years. No, oh my gosh, it's only been a year, but I'm already planning for this year, is I do a values-based vision board course where we talk about like the neuroscience of visualization, like why it works, and then aligning it with your values. So I'm really excited this year because I think my members will be a part of that. And like they've done all this work to get really clear on their values. And then here, let me show you. I'm going to show you my vision board from last year because it's literally just my very favorite thing. And see, my values are in the middle. Here, and it's very purposeful.
Put her up bigger. Let's see.
What is it? Oh yeah, Ashley.
Shut up. Okay, there. Now hold it up.
Yes. And so we talk about even in Canva, like how you can put yourself on a TED stage, and like Mel Robbins' podcast, like you can put yourself in places, and the importance of putting moments that are real. And so that's something that all of the members of my membership will get to do this year. But also if that's just, something that people want to join for that one time, but it's my very favorite thing. And I love this, like the science behind it, and in a way that is like really fun. So
Yeah. This is so awesome. This has been so helpful, and it's inspiring me to kind of realign after the summit's over because it's been such a busy
Yes.
season. And I hope all of you too can kind of take what you learned here today with Dr. Angelyn and say, I'm going to commit to myself to um, come up with some values and really take that quiz and figure out where you're at so you can improve this throughout the year rather than it going down, down, down throughout the school year as you get more
Yes.
overloaded and stressed.
Yes. And stress is going to happen. Like we're going to have those moments. And I think, knowing that it's just having the tools when it shows up and knowing, like, I'm even thinking of you right now, Tara. I'm like, the first thing we need to do is like get back to like you need some rest after these big things. When big things happen, when you have a hard meeting or you have a hard day, like rest might be the first step. And then once you're resourced in that way, like the bottom of what like Maslow's or hierarchy of needs, like then you can pull in those values. But yeah, the first thing is just like drink enough water, get enough sleep, those little things.
Okay.
Treat yourself like a plant.
Thank you. See, there she goes. She helped one person already. No, I know she helped a lot of you too. So, okay, you know where to her, and please join me in thanking Dr. Angelyn Franks.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Come find me wherever on Instagram. I'm excited.
All right. We'll see you soon. Maybe on my podcast, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that would be fun.
Okay. Talk to you soon.